Britain's medicine regulator has advised that people with a history of significant allergies do not get Pfizer-BioNTech's COVID-19 vaccine. This warning came after 2 National Health Service workers reported severe adverse reactions on the first day of vaccine rollout. Both workers are recovering, according to the NHS Medical Director, Stephen Powers. Britain began mass vaccinating its population on Tuesday, starting with the elderly and the frontline workers. Pfizer had said people with history of allergic reactions were excluded from the late-stage trials. The new guidelines from Britain's medicine regulator, the MHRA, also include a much broader segment of people that should not take the vaccine.
Australia has cancelled the production of a domestic coronavirus vaccine after trials showed that it could lead to false positive tests for HIV. The developers of the drug, the University of Queensland and biotech firm CSL, report that the vaccine did show a robust response to combating COVID-19 in a Phase 1 trial, but finding a fix to the HIV problem could take another year of research. The vaccine was one of 4 candidates contracted by the Australian government. CSL and the Australian government had together decided to stop Phase 2 and Phase 3 trials. The government has instead secured additional doses of rival vaccines, such as Novavax. Meanwhile, pharmaceutical giants Sanofi and Britain's GlaxoSmithKline's candidate have also reported setbacks. On Friday, the companies said that clinical trials showed that their own vaccine created what they call a, quote, low immune response in older people. It means a potential vaccine launch from them may be delayed until the end of next year.
Hospitals are doing urgent training. Their freezer units sit empty and ready, and UPS trucks are sending out specialized equipment. An enormous nationwide operation is poised and ready now that a critical COVID-19 vaccine is one step closer to being deployed. A panel of outside advisors to the FDA on Thursday recommended the agency authorize the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine for emergency use.
Voted yes.
The FDA's decision on whether to pull the trigger is expected within days. In anticipation, healthcare professionals across the country are practicing how to handle, mix, and administer the vials. At UPMC Presbyterian Hospital in Pittsburgh on Thursday, packages of supplies arrived at the pharmacy in preparation for a vaccination clinic. A turning point in this crisis can't come soon enough. The disease has so far killed over 289,000 Americans and has overwhelmed hospitals nationwide. The country's daily deaths from COVID-19 surpassed 3,000 for the first time, a higher toll than in the September 11th attacks. Doctors like Warren Gavin at Indiana University Health Methodist Hospital are desperate for the cavalry to arrive.
Personally, I cannot roll up my sleeve fast enough to get this vaccination, and I guess I would urge the community, when it's that time, to do the same. You may save at least one life, if not more.
Of course, getting the vaccines to where they need to be is paramount. UPS and FedEx plan to ship millions of doses before holiday gifts with VIP handling, including GPS trackers on packages that will also provide temperature, light exposure, and motion data. Health officials say the priority is for high-risk individuals and healthcare workers to receive the dosages first. But until there is herd immunity, which could be many months away at the earliest, health officials are urging Americans to stay vigilant in their efforts to control the spread of COVID-19 and to still wear masks, even after getting the vaccine.
German Chancellor Angela Merkel is pushing for harsher lockdown measures as the country faces record numbers of recorded coronavirus deaths. Most recently on Wednesday, 590 people were lost. In an emotional plea in the parliament, Merkel warned legislators that vaccines alone would not alter the pandemic's course.
Und so hart das ist, und ich weiß, wie viel Liebe dahinter steckt, wenn Glühweinstände aufgebaut werden.
As hard as this is, and I know how much love has gone into setting up the mulled wine stalls and the waffle stalls, this is not really compatible with the agreement to only get food to go and then to actually go home with it. It hurts me. It really aches in my heart. But if the price of these niceties is that our fatalities are now at 590 people a day, then this is not acceptable. And so we have to tighten this.
Und deshalb müssen wir da.
Germany, which was praised by international health organizations early in the pandemic for its aggressive response to coronavirus, has been in partial lockdown for 6 weeks, with bars and restaurants closed. But infection levels remain at a high level. Under Germany's federal system, the power to impose restrictions lies with regional governments. Some state leaders, especially in less affected regions, have resisted Merkel's push for tighter measures. In the run-up to Christmas, other European countries are trying to navigate between avoiding the spread of COVID-19 and allowing people to celebrate. Italy, which also recently saw a new death record, has announced that midnight mass on Christmas Eve will be cancelled and travelling between regions are banned. Ski resorts would also be closed over Christmas and New Year's. In Spain, up to 10 people per household will be allowed to gather for the holidays, but curfews will be in place.
Mounting chaos at the UK's key gateway to continental Europe. Trucks stacking up on roads into Dover on Friday. Tailbacks from the port in southern England stretched for miles. Logistics firms say it comes as companies try to bring in goods and parts before the end of the year. That's when the country's transition period ends and Brexit proper begins. And it just might be a vision of things to come. Talks this week between UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson and European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen were supposed to produce a breakthrough. But trade talks remain stalled ahead of a new Sunday deadline. Now Johnson says a no-deal exit is very, very likely. The sticking points remain fishing rights, and EU demands that Britain face consequences if it diverges from the bloc's rules. Earlier in the day, von der Leyen sounded equally gloomy.
Positions remain apart on fundamental issues. On the level playing field, we have repeatedly made clear to our UK partners that the principle of fair competition is a precondition to privileged access to the EU market.
EU sources say she told a leaders' summit that prospects for a deal had worsened. For now, though, both sides say they still want and hope to reach agreement. But Johnson says a no-deal exit will be wonderful for the UK. We may not have to wait long to find out if that's true.
Indian officials are looking into how they can tweak new and controversial laws that deregulate parts of their agriculture sector that have sparked mass protests by farmers since last month. Protests so far-reaching, it's even prompted thousands into the streets of London, which has a huge Indian community, thousands of miles away. The government has put off a second day of talks with farm groups. The new laws loosen rules around the sale, pricing and storage of farm produce and had protected farmers from an unfettered free market for decades. Small growers in particular feared that they will be at the mercy of big businesses if they are no longer assured of floor prices for staples such as wheat and rice sold at government-controlled wholesale markets. A federal government spokesman said that in response to the protests, the government decided against rushing into a planned second day of talks without first coming up with some proposals that help soothe the farmers' anger. The protests pose a major challenge to Prime Minister Narendra Modi as he seeks to reform the vast agriculture sector, which makes up nearly 15% of India's economy and employs around half of its 1.3 billion people.
Mount Everest is even taller than was previously thought. That's according to Nepal and China, whose governments say they've finally settled a long-running dispute over the height of the world's tallest peak, which straddles their shared border.
New height of Mount Chumbalama Sagmata. At
issue for Beijing and Kathmandu was whether to include the summit's snow cap. Nepal traditionally used the estimate made by the Survey of India in 1954, and that included snow, while Beijing had sent an expedition that measured the mountain in 2005 at nearly 4 metres lower than that estimate, without counting the snow. So last year, Nepal sent its first team of surveyors, followed by China again this year. And at last, they've agreed.
3, 2, 1. Please press the crystal ball.
The official height is now 8,848.86 metres, or 29,031.69 feet. That's about 3 feet more than the 1954 survey. Another factor in settling on a height at last was the 2015 earthquake in Nepal. Mountaineers thought it could have altered Everest's height, especially since a near-vertical rock formation just below the summit, called the Hillary Step, had collapsed. Despite the tiny adjustment, some are already saying they look forward to scaling Everest's new heights.